Do you have the functionality to set up emergency landing pages if your website is taken down, depending on the level of the attack? Do you need to be getting post to reach some of your customers?
Yeah.
It may sound like an exaggeration. We have somebody that we had to work to that level with.
It's the sort of rabbit in the headlights, frozen, I don't know what to do. And if you don't own the narrative, then the vacuum that then exists will be filled by something else. Hello and welcome to Being Crisis Prepared, the business continuity podcast from Inverroy Crisis Management. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Jennifer McLennan from Fifth Ring.
Yeah, hi, it's lovely to be here. So I'm Jennifer McLennan. I'm the Regional Director for Europe for Fifth Ring. Fifth Ring is an international B2B marketing communications agency. We work with clients all over the world with everything from brand to demand problems or challenges they're trying to solve. And today we'll be here to talk about, I guess, the crisis communications and communications reputation management support that we provide, which aligns obviously to Inverroy and your expertise as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Most of our listeners who've listened to more than one of these podcasts will have identified that we normally try and break our chats down into two phases. And we normally start with a quick look at the news and something that has attracted our attention or caught our eye. So with that in mind, Jennifer, is there something that's caught your eye in the news in the last few days that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I think one that sort of stood out to me was the pleading guilty by Lucy Connolly, who was the wife of the Tory councillor. She pleaded guilty to stirring up racial hatred based on a post she put on X, which is formerly Twitter, which I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing from that description. But I just thought it was a lesson for everyone to remember around that the internet never forgets. I think she deleted that post after 2 hours. Allegedly, when her defence said that she realised she was a victim of the misinformation, or however she described it, that it was misinformation that prompted her to make the post, and she deleted it after 2 hours. But it was still found, it was reported, it was she's been appeared in court and pleaded guilty and has been told that she should expect a custodial sentence. And I think it's a lesson to everyone to remember around the importance of your voice on the internet, even if you change your mind or try to remove it. Like you said, it never forgets. Yeah. And I think when we're talking to customers or clients in any kind of crisis situation, there's always a lot of focus on media and what they're going to be carrying. A big push that we always try and remind our clients around is the importance of speaking to your staff, internal colleagues. Make it clear to them what's happening. Don't let them hear misinformation or speculation from external sources, social media, or the external media. Set expectations about sharing online. Set expectations around if they are contacted by the media, what they should be doing. Help them to direct their fear and their anger rather than leave a vacuum that they could fill. For a customer, you never want any of your people to be representing you in a way that's heated and spur of the moment. Even if they try to remove it as a business, respond, don't react to a situation.
That impact on the business's reputation by an errant message from one of its team, is always that sort of for goodness sake type moment. I assume from the comms team or the senior leadership team, they go, why did person X put that out there that has now undermined our reputation? And I guess from an individual's point of view, you spend most of your working life building your reputation, and then you, in a unthinking moment, put something out there that is shared by potentially millions that shoots you in the foot, and all that hard work is then just swept away, isn't it? So yeah, there is nowhere to hide, and it doesn't matter what the issue is. I take your point 100% that in this case it was Lucy Connolly and the civil unrest across largely England last month. But you see the same types of things on LinkedIn with everything from falling out with someone by something that was said at the school gate, right the way through to the Gaza conflict or Ukraine conflict at the moment, or issues over whether you're a Trump supporter or nearer to home, I guess we probably have the same issue, or we had it with Brexit, and potentially there's so much information on the internet at the moment about independence or not independence, or Labour Party or Conservatives. That whole thing, where are you getting your facts from, becomes really important, doesn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. Critical thinking, I think applying it to every source where you receive the information from. What are they trying to get you to believe? What could they be trying to get you to believe? What purpose does sharing this information have? And I'm such an advocate for that. We're not going to have fewer channels and algorithms feeding us what we think we want to what it thinks we want to hear and see. And I think being aware of that, and as an individual applying critical thinking, but also from a business perspective in terms of resilience and continuity, there's nowhere to hide. Honesty, you have to be honest in any kind of situation. You be upfront, be honest, because you will be caught out. Everyone has a phone, everyone has video camera and recording capability, audio footage or otherwise. And I think being prompt, responding fast, and being honest and being authentic, being a human being about it, is so important in any kind of crisis situation as well.
A colleague once used the phrase "the ABCs of crisis comms" to me. What's the ABCs? And he said A is accuracy, B is brevity, and C is clarity. And I thought that was quite a neat way, that exactly as you said there, you've got to be accurate in what you say. You've got to be honest, because you'll get found out, and make it clear so that the listener or the person who is receiving the message understands what you're saying, and don't give them a page of information, because they'll forget or they'll get bored and won't get to the bottom of it. So awesome. Thank you for that. Great start with a bit of news. The one that I picked up was actually out today, and today is the 3rd of September. But in Scotland, the waste management teams have been discussing their pay rise or not, as the case may be, and what has been offered has just been rejected, and therefore strike action is back on the cards again. And I don't know the issues, ins and outs of the politics behind whether that's right or wrong. That's not why I raise it. Why I raise it is it struck me as one of those classics of, when you're looking at your business continuity plan, what are those things that are critical to you and that you don't necessarily think about until you lose them? And in this case, so many companies will be reliant on waste management so that the bins are emptied at their place of work. And we obviously think about the likes of the hospitality industry, but there are others. And if that capability is denied, does it then make your ability to deliver your output much more difficult? And therefore, yes, in this case, it's a waste management strike potential, but there are others that, as we think through what is critical. Jennifer, I don't know whether you remember the days of COVID, and it now seems so long ago. You sort of go, oh, you remember COVID? And it's 4.5 years ago that it all started. But those days of queuing up in Tesco's or whatever, and we were all 2 meters apart, and the amazing work that the shelf stackers and the delivery drivers were doing when we were all told not to work and to stay at home. They were the ones that turned up, and we suddenly all realized how important they were to our day-to-day lives. And without that delivery driver who drives the milk or the bread from the farm to the suddenly everything stops. And yet we take people for granted sometimes. So the unseen workforce that keep the rest of the economy moving. It's if you lose them, then certainly, he said, it's the things that you don't, like I said, when you break an arm and you suddenly realise where all the rest of your body connects to. Why is your back hurting? Why is your side hurting? Yeah, that's great. You lose one part, and everything else that's impacted as a result of it, isn't it? Yeah. So that, from a resilience perspective, so that proper analysis of where are the other connecting points and those, I think the buzz phrase, interdependencies that we all normally say, finance is an interdependency. Well, gosh, what a surprise. We all need money to make a department work. That's obvious. It's the less obvious ones where you're really adding the value and thinking through the problem. So no, that jumped out, and I thought that was perhaps worth sharing. As I say, not because I'm for or against strike action. Obviously, the people that are deciding it want to have an impact so that they influence the decision. But we're the users of that capability, and therefore what plans can we have in place to say, right, my horizon scan says that's going to happen over the next month. Do we need to outsource it to somebody else? Do I need to make sure that the bins are empty, completely drawn down so I've got maximum capacity? Doesn't matter what the options are, but have thought it through and developed, as Blackadder would have said, a cunning plan is what we're after. So brilliant. There we go. There's a couple of news stories that we've had a quick delve in. The other reason that I've asked Jennifer onto the call today is because with a fair wind, we are meeting in Aberdeen at the end of the month for a conference that we are co-hosting between Fifth Ring and Inverroy called Cyberdeen. The great news is that Jennifer is one of the presenters or one of the speakers at Cyberdeen. And if it's okay for you, Jennifer, I'm conscious that not everyone can get to Aberdeen to be able to hear what the sorts of things that you might be presenting. And I wondered if you're willing to share some of those thoughts with our listeners.
Yeah, I would love to. I think the important thing that we were discussing this event was, I think sometimes businesses think it's not something that will or could happen to them, whether they don't think they're big enough, controversial enough, known enough. Yeah. But I think the most recent stats from the government survey on cyber attacks and cyber defence showed that 50% of businesses in the UK suffered some kind of security breach or attack last year. And I think that's increasing, and expected that every business over its tenure will be a victim of some kind of hack. And just because you have been hacked before doesn't mean that you won't be again. Yeah. So I think what we saw, that was a gap of, like you said, resilience planning sometimes for some businesses of certain scale. And we wanted to make sure that businesses were aware that this was almost an inevitability that was coming, and making sure that they were as prepared as possible. People like yourself, Matthew, and others will be there to talk about overall business resilience. From my perspective, I'll be there to talk about the communication during or preparing and post for a cyber attack. So I think that there will be, as ever in any crisis situation, there's nuances depending on the situation, but preparedness is critical. Like we were talking about before, that scan of the horizon and making sure that you have prepared as best you can. That, from a communications perspective, looks like mapping your stakeholders in a first instance. So that is not just the media. It's how do you make sure you have internal setups for speaking to your own staff. Do you need to consider investors? How do you contact your customers, your suppliers, regulators? Can you access your social media via different access points? Do you know the media landscape that you're going to be engaging with that might be of interest to you? And then channel mapping. How would you plan to engage with them? Do you have everyone's email? Do you have, how do you access your website? Do you have the functionality to set up emergency landing pages if your website is taken down? Do you literally need phone numbers to phone people if you're, depending on the level of the attack? Social media accounts, do you need to be getting post to reach some of your customers? Yeah. It may sound like an exaggeration. We have somebody that we had to work to that level with, where they were no longer able to send emails, and how to look at offline communication, which, when you were talking about things that you take for granted that you don't or don't take for granted, maybe don't think about as part of your day-to-day because they just happen. I think sending emails takes up a lot of all of our time.
Yeah, and I think so many companies we've worked with, when we come to this sort of area, say, "Oh, we'll just send an email." And you go, right, but your systems will be locked down until you work out what is impacting and what isn't. So in that initial wave, you're unlikely to have access to your at abcengineering.com sort of corporate email. Oh, well, we'll set up a Gmail account. Okay, so are you reliant on, as the media starts to pick up that you are being hacked, or as the word gets out, and then someone gets a Gmail email from someone that they're not expecting, are they really going to open it? And how confident are you that those backups that you rely on are actually going to work? As you say, it's it's thinking it through beforehand and working out, okay, who do we need to speak to, the stakeholders and stakeholder engagement planning, and then what do we need to tell them, who do we need to tell first, and so on. So no, if that's what the attendees are going to get, some wise words and some top tips, I think that would be a great start for so many people, because it is one of those that when faced with that moment, it's the sort of rabbit in the headlights, frozen sort of, I don't know what to do. And if you don't own the narrative, then the vacuum that then exists will be filled by something else. And as we mentioned before, the social media and misinformation, and it's not like COVID, where during COVID we were all in it together. Everyone was impacted, whereas now someone else will be trying to steal your clients if you can't provide that output. So you need to be on the front foot and ready for it. So no, that sounds like a great session. And I think, if I'm right, you've got about half an hour rather than the 2 minutes that we've had on this call. So I'm sure there will be a little bit more than those headlines that you flashed up, and that chance to delve into it. So that sounds fantastic. And for those who are listening, Cyberdeen is on the 26th of September in the One Tech Hub at Schoolhill in Aberdeen. So we're doing it in person. It's starting at 8:30 in the morning, with, in fact, doors open at 8 o'clock for a breakfast roll, but first conference moment is at 8:30, goes through to 12 o'clock, and then there's networking and lunch opportunity afterwards. And we're delighted that it's not just Jennifer and I talking, which, although I'm clearly, that would be a great conference in its own right, but we are blessed that there are such a great panel of other speakers that we have been able to encourage to join us, including Jude McCrory from Cyber and Fraud Centre Scotland, and one of her colleagues who will be also speaking, delivering a real life case study. We've got Martin Smith, Managing Director of Cyber Prism, looking at operational technology and his decades of experience in crisis leadership. And then we've got a panel discussion, which will include both Jennifer and me, Martin, Jude, but we're also fortunate to have a representative from the insurance world talking about, or if questions come up about what insurance is appropriate. And we have a representative from a local company to Aberdeen that has actually had a cyber attack and willing to talk about any specific questions on their experiences of going through it and what their focus was. So sounds like quite a good morning. And clearly I'm slightly biased. It's going to be a great morning. But the importance is that, as Jennifer said, it's not just about how do you do the IT bit and passwords and all the other things that we've been learning about for the last few years on what I would call the left-hand side of the bow tie of the preventative measures. This is, if something bad happens, what can you do to manage the incident, and what tools and techniques can you lean on? What industry experts are there and what are they saying? So when you've got the expertise of someone like Fifth Ring, internationally recognized in their field, the likes of the Cyber and Fraud Centre Scotland, national centre, able to come and speak about their experiences, then it should be a great session and something for everyone. So if you're listening to this and that appeals, please do search for Cyberdeen. If you're interested through Fifth Ring or through Inverroy, we will be able to share more information, but we will put a link onto the podcast notes as well, so that you can access the session. Jennifer, just before we finish, is there anything there, obviously other than your own presentation, that you're looking forward to hearing from? Is there anything that go, oh, that might be interesting? Sorry, I put you on the spot there with a difficult
good
question.
I always think the real life situations, whenever we're doing any training and we can talk about where we have supported in real life and what that looked like, that's always the the story that resonates, I think, with people. And I think that will be really interesting to people. I think sometimes it can come across as theory when there's people like you and I, Matthew, talking about what they should be doing, but the real impact of this is what happened to a business, this is the impact it had, this is what they did, and this is what we've learned. And I think that's a real positive that I've seen from cyber attacks so far, is these brave companies who are willing to talk about their experience of it. And it's not an easy decision to make as a business, but to be able to take learnings from each other is where I think the real value comes from these side. And like you mentioned, it's a free event, so there's no cost for people to come. They just need to sign up so we get enough coffee for everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, listeners of the podcast, if you are available on the morning of the 26th of September, please do come. Please do come and say hello to Jennifer. Come and say hello to me. We'll be there. Reasonably obvious who we are, as I'm facilitating the whole thing, and obviously Jennifer's speaking. It will be great to see you. If we get the opportunity on a future podcast and there is something that actually that was really good, we could do with running a podcast on that, we will do a similar session to this one that we've done with Jennifer, and try and share good practice, because that's what this podcast is all about. So for now, Jennifer, thank you very much indeed for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you at the end of the month.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it too.